And I would say the missed opportunity is also on outcome-based financing. That is something that again is a it's a huge innovation that can be brought in to the city functioning, but that is something again we have not had.
Hello, and welcome to the U20 Dialogue series. I'm your host Punit Gandhi from NIUA, and we are excited to bring to you a series of discussions on various urban development challenges faced by cities across the world and its potential solutions. This month, we will talk to experts working in the urban sector on the theme of reinventing frameworks for urban governance and planning in cities. And today, we have with us Mr. Naim Keruwala. He's a program director for cities, city investments to innovate, integrate, and sustain. Today, he will help us understand innovation in city governments. Welcome to the show, Naim.
Thank you very much, Puneet. Glad to be here.
Thank you so much for taking out time. And this is something which is a very interesting topic, but also somewhere it sounds that how do city governments innovate? What is there that, what are we talking about of innovation when we are talking about the city government? Because I think that perspective people still don't have. And I think that would be a good start for this conversation.
I think when we talk about city governments, there are a lot of missed opportunities when it comes to innovation. We don't focus a lot on integrated approach. Most of our projects are very siloed approaches in which we have a project idea, we develop a DPR, a detailed project report based on the BOQs and SORs, and then we do the tendering and the project gets completed. We don't spend enough time to really plan our projects, to really integrate our project with other aspects of the city development. For example, when I was studying in Pune, I remember the Senapati Vapat Road would get dug up at least twice a year. And I would always think that why does it get dug up every year? And I think this is a very common cliched example that every time I think all of us have experienced. And that's a problem, that there's no the communication between one department of the municipal corporation with another municipal corporation. So how do we look at the integrated approach of doing things? And again, instead of just being in a hurry to implement, can we take a step back, test our solutions, learn from them, and then scale? Another thing is addressing systemic issues. There are major challenges when it comes to cities. When it comes to, I would say, two main things. First is human resources, and second is staffing. There are enough reports which tells us that we do not have adequate human resources in our municipal corporations, and finances again it's a major issue. Then we always think about more of a project approach rather than a solution approach. We more kind of are driven by I would say a lot of our work is supply driven rather than demand driven. It's very kind of, let's say, unfortunate that Pune is the only city in India that has like a fully functional participatory budgeting mechanism. I think it should be there in every city. We should be actually talking to our citizens, learning from them, and then developing solutions around it. So projects, the problem-driven iterative approach, is something that we need to take up. And based on that, we need to kind of have a more of a collaborative approach rather than a prescriptive approach. And I would say the missed opportunity is also on outcome-based financing. That is something that again is a it's a huge innovation that can be brought in to the city functioning, but that is something again we have not had. I think Mumbai was the only city that even tried to do outcome-based financing. They did it for 1 year, but they never made their outcome budget public, and then it kind of fizzled out completely. But that is again something that we really these are the missed opportunities when it comes to innovation in city governments.
No, I do agree with a lot of points that you have said. And HR and staffing issues is something I think that we have also covered in our sequence with Janagra, where we actually discussed some of the major challenges with the city governments. And this came out to be one of the biggest challenge that any city government has. And you mentioned about the participatory budget or just getting citizens involved more into the process somewhere. I think this is something where if they are collaborated in a better way, staffing issue with citizen participation, this can somewhere be much aligned together to develop better things. So how
Absolutely.
what are the things that are being done to also bring more citizens on board, and what can be done, because that is something which is always a confusion.
I think there is a lot of innovation happening within our own ecosystem, which unfortunately we're not documenting well enough. I think a very good initiative is the SAR initiative that the Smart Cities Mission has taken up to kind of link academia with the smart cities. Because I remember talking to a few civil engineering colleges, and they have a compulsory course on estimation, cost estimation. I remember municipal engineers complaining about lack of staff, wherein they face a lot of difficulties in getting the right estimates and developing those designs and drawings. It was a very simple thing that why can't the students from civil engineering colleges, instead of doing they're searching for internships in real estate companies and others, municipal corporation can pay them the stipend, and they can actually do this 3 to 6 months internship with the municipal corporation. And a lot of this work, you are actually basically training them in municipal governance, and they get to learn, and the city gets like a huge amount of resource which can actually help them in their day-to-day activities. So that's one of the areas that city governments can definitely look at, how to really harness this potential of with academia. We have such massive number of students. We can engage with them. Right now, we are also in touch with one of the universities. So one of the universities that we are in touch with, they are already working with NHAI on road safety audits. So we are saying, why can't we take 20, 30 of their students and actually do safety audits for the smart roads that we're building under our project? And that actually saves the cost by, I would say, almost 1/10. So if I had to hire a consultant, and by the way, the students are always led by the faculty. So the faculty is like, again, very they're well experienced people. They have exposure, they have expertise, they have all the knowledge and the tools. So you get 2 or 3 faculty members as advisors, and then they are the ones who are guiding the students to do the safety audits. And we actually did the maths, and we found out that if we had to hire a consulting firm or an other engineering firm to do that, it would have costed something like 2.5 crores. But with students, we can actually get this within 25 lakhs.
Wow.
So it's you can always work around that, and then you can always hire maybe a senior person to kind of guide the students, just to make sure that the quality aspect is not somehow being taken for granted. So even in my program, in Cities program, we just recently signed an MOU with the Sciences Po Urban School in Paris. Sciences Po is, I think, ranked the second in the world when it comes to social sciences.
Wow.
And we went to them and we said that, hey, you have all your students from all over the world. Why can't we collaborate? And you sending your students to actually document the work that we are doing. What is knowledge capitalization? So for knowledge capitalization, again, the quality that I'm now getting is actually way better than I would have gotten from a consulting firm. I have nothing against consulting firms, by the way. It's just that there's enough in the system through which the consulting firms can get out of, and there is also enough wherein the cities, especially who cannot afford the big firms, can obviously always also look at academia. And I don't think the difference in quality is that different. And in some places, the example with the Sciences Po students, the kind of interaction that I'm having with them is fantastic. So what Sciences Po has done is given them one academic tutor, one scientific advisor, and a group of 5 students who are now helping us to document 3 cities. And based on those 3, learning from 3 cities of Hubli, Agartala, and Surat, developing a framework on how to do ecological transition through urban waterfront projects. How to do this through nature-based solutions. So now, because the students come from various parts of the world, they're also learning what Netherlands is doing. So now, suddenly, with those conversations, the city governments are learning. Okay, one student is saying, "Okay, I'm from Netherlands. This is what is happening in Netherlands." One is from Brazil. One is from Argentina. 2 are from France. So the scientific advisor is from India. The other person is also working from Africa. So now we have this multidisciplinary team which is documenting a research project. And again, the cost, I think, is, again, I would say 1/10, even while working with Sciences Po from Paris, compared to a consulting firm. So, and we are getting really good quality, and the students are very enthusiastic. They're going to come to India and they're going to work with us. And it's also good for the university because they are providing them with a live project
Yeah.
as part of a live Government of India's project, and they get to learn. And for us, we get a really good quality product. So I think that is one very important innovation that is definitely required. How do we link it with the academic institutes? I think
Yeah.
in the smart cities mission, when we talk about the quadruple helix, I think the academia part is still something that we have not really harnessed it completely. I think that's why NIUA also now is partnering a lot with many education institutes. We are partnering with the Indian School of Business for the Leadership and Climate Change Management Program. We are partnering with Science Pro. We are partnering with Symbiosis. We are partnering with IIT Roorkee for the basic program. Many other academic university, organizations we are partnering with now. And I think this is the same thing from NIUA, from the central level. Even the cities on their own can harness the potential of those universities and colleges within their cities, which would help them also not completely eradicate the problem of staffing, but somehow find that middle path or a short gap arrangement that, okay, I need people, but I don't have enough money. So I do a collaboration. I collaborate with the university and get my things started. So, we have to look at what is my short-term, medium-term, long-term solution. So the long-term is to fix the issue. I'm sure emphasized on it enough, so I won't get into that part.
Yeah.
But the short or medium term could be these kind of collaborations, and we've already shown that this is possible. For example, in my INCITIES project in Puducherry, we signed an agreement with SPA Delhi, and the students from SPA Delhi actually went to Puducherry and helped them design some of their housing projects. Wow. So there are enough number of examples where the students have contributed to like real life designs, which are very useful.
Yeah. No, I absolutely agree, and I think most of the Europe is leveraging that fact and developing themselves, because I've studied there and I have worked on such projects in Europe itself, where somewhere or the other you are helping their corporation, and something India has absolutely missed out on, and somewhere that is the R&D that we also need to make sure that we have more India-centric knowledge base somewhere, because we can't really ride the wave with their knowledge base. And there is quite a lot of financial benefit to do this thing as well. But somewhere, when we are talking about city projects in general, they might require a much bigger finance in terms of implementation. Okay, project design is one part of it where academia can come into it. From the implementation point of view, how does these things function out? What is the financing things that will need to innovate on its own so that somewhere these projects are able to sustain themselves? What are the things that we are thinking about on those lines?
So I think one of the important missing puzzle of reforms for innovation lies in a very boring detail, and that is how do you make sure that the procurements are right? How do you give flexibility in procurement to city governments?
Yeah.
So all of us know that a typical project, the cycle would be like you make a DPR. In the DPR, you have bill of quantities, and the bill of quantities is being assessed according to the schedule of rates that is decided by the state government.
Yeah.
Now, what all is there in the SOR will happen. What all is not in SOR is basically unscheduled items.
Yeah.
For which there is a gray area in terms of how to get that approved, and that kind of rests a lot on the leadership. If you want to take that leap of faith, or if you want to kind of take that risk or not, to bring in some unscheduled items in your procurement system. So that is something that we really need to focus on. How do we give this flexibility to the city governments to procure and not be bound by very straight-jacketed approach? So, for example, in Amravati, in cities program, we said that they are developing Anganwadis in schools in a very innovative way. We introduced something called a Bala model, that is building as a learning aid.
Okay.
So the kids should start learning even while interacting with the premises.
Yeah.
So very beautiful example about it. So architect Kabir Dashpai has worked quite a lot on this. So even when kids open the door of the classroom, on
Yeah.
the floor, they can see when the door is opening, how what is 90 degrees, what is 60 degrees, what is 30 degrees. So just while
Yeah.
playing with the door in the classroom, they're actually learning geometry. Even on the railings of the windows, they put beads. So
Huh.
just when they're sitting idle, they just start playing beads, but they're actually doing maths.
Yeah.
And even while climbing the stairs, or even with the play equipments in the playground, everything is basically simulating learning in their minds. So that is a beautiful model. But now when we started working on it, Amravati said, but most of the works that you are asking us to do is not in the SOR, and to get the unscheduled items
Yeah.
included, it's a painstaking process. Unfortunately, not many people want to take that risk.
Yeah.
So we said, okay, let's work on it.
Yeah.
We worked with them, took some time, but we were able to get that done through an innovative procurement process.
Yeah.
So we'll have to find innovative ways. So that L1 approach is not something that will drive innovation. Recently I was in a meeting with the French ambassador, and there were CEOs of French companies,
Yeah.
and they're presenting some of innovative clean tech solutions. And one CEO said that, do you think we can replicate some of this in India? I said, I highly doubt it, because most of your solution are maybe 5x or 6x or 7x to what a typical solution would cost in India. So how do we work around that? So I said, if you really want to drive innovation, and if you really want clean tech to be used in India, don't sell the product, sell the technology, because then the startups here can reverse engineer it, and that is something that has been done. I mean, I know startups that have brought down the cost of biomass pellets by one tenth. They went to the international expos, got the biomass pellet machines, reverse engineered it, made it into the localized version, and now they're selling it at one tenth the cost. And even that one tenth cost is expensive in India. So if you really want for Indian cities to use clean tech, you cannot sell us super expensive products. Sell us the technology, and based on that technology, we can then further innovate. So, for example, we are just about to sign an agreement with Efficacity. It's a French company based out of Paris. It's partly owned by government of France and partly by the private sector. It's on a PPP mode, and they have developed the world's first energy mapping software. And they are even planning to kind of make it mandatory for all European Union cities in the European Union to use this energy mapping software to basically manage the grid, the power grid, and make it more efficient. They have spent millions of euros on this. So me and director NIUA, we went to meet them in Paris, and we had multiple rounds of discussions with them. And now they have agreed to basically contextualize this software for Indian cities. So they said, okay, we are private sector at the end of the day. We can't just give it for free. So they said, okay, we are going to give half of the money, that is €500,000. €500,000 AFD can give as technical assistance to us. So in €1,000,000, we make the entire software and give it to you. So we contribute, but we also have some financial assistance. So rather than we going and buying each software or the model of the software, they said, we'll give it to you for $1,000,000, and then we'll contextualize it, and then people can just keep on replicating it. So that is the solution we need to we need to have. But okay, you have a software, you give it to us. Similarly, you have a machine, you give it to us. Give us a technology. Don't say that, okay, this is the product, you have to keep buying this from us, and you have to keep buying the maintenance and the spare parts from us, because that is not sustainable for our city. So that is also one area that we really need to focus on to drive innovation. How do we get technology transfer where technologies are available, rather than actually just invest in buying products? That is something that needs to happen at the national or the regional scale. And at the again at the state level, we need to have flexibility in our procurement. We need to bring innovation within the procurement process. This cannot happen from the central level. This has to happen at the state level, and at the local level. we need to basically incentivize innovation. Unfortunately, forget incentivizing innovation. We kind of disincentivize innovation in a way, unfortunately, because the focus is always on utilization of funds. The process is physical progress. So we are always in a hurry. The clock has started. Within 6 months, 1 year, you have to finish the project. Innovation takes time, and when you are innovating, you need to have that kind of flexibility. That does not mean that innovation means that you keep going on and on forever. There has to be some time bound approach. But let's say if a typical project takes couple of years, innovation can take maybe, I don't know, to 4 years, 5 years. So that cushion has to be provided to the cities also, that okay, you have this flexibility to do this innovatively. So innovation is always going to take a bit more time than your regular aspect. So these are some of the more, I would say, process-driven things that needs to change to really drive innovation in cities. For example, I'll give you Amritsar project that we're doing in cities program. So Amritsar's project was about replacing 12,000 diesel autos with electric autos. Very pure procurement plus subsidy program. Through cities program, we said we will do a maturation phase. It was a 24-step process. Each of the 12 cities under the cities program were required to do that. And we'll give you a 3-tier mentorship model, in which we'll have a one international mentor. So Mr. Michael King is the international mentor for Amritsar. We'll give you a domestic expert. So Pranjali Deshpande is the domestic expert for Amritsar. And we'll give you a pool of transversal experts. These are basically consulting firms whose on-demand service you can avail. Instead of saying immediately that the project is approved, now start implementing, for 1 year, you are not allowed to implement. Basically, develop a project logical framework for your program, develop a results-based management tool for your program, conduct environmental and social impact assessment, develop a stakeholder engagement plan, conduct stakeholder meet at least 4 things, develop scenarios for the programs, for your projects, discuss it with the stakeholders, develop a staffing plan. So basically that will help in formalizing the IPT sector. So imagine 12,000 auto rickshaw drivers in a cooperative society. That's a huge amount of public sector formalization that we are doing. Intermediate transport sector formalization that we're doing. Now we said, what is the benefit for an auto rickshaw driver to be part of this cooperative society? One is, yes, they are formalizing. Second, we said the female family members of each of the cooperative societies members will get free vocational training. So basically, an electrification program became a social innovation program. And now the women are getting free vocational training because their male members are now part of the cooperative society. Now we are saying, right now, 100% of auto rickshaw drivers in Amritsar are men. There's just one woman who is driving auto rickshaw, e-rickshaw, and that too, I think, started a month or so ago. We are saying, through this vocational training, let's start introducing women drivers also in the sector. So some of the women can also choose to learn how to drive e-rickshaws, e-autos. So that is another change. Then we said, what is the issue? Earlier the idea was that most of the charging will happen at home. We said that's not sustainable, because some people live in areas where charging infrastructure it's not that good. So now Amritsar went to Amritsar Improvement Trust, went to Amritsar Municipal Corporation, and now they have selected 28 locations, and they signed an MOU with EESL. They are going to put charging stations across 28 locations. Then we said, what about access to credit? Because the subsidy amount will be certain percentage, rest of the amount will be loan. And also, what should be that loan amount and what should be the EMI? So that again we started discussing, because that was not being thought of earlier. But then we went on detail and said, okay, let's do the calculation. Not more than 3,000 to 4,000 rupees per month should be the EMI. So for that, what is the kind of interest rate? What is the kind of period that needs to be looked at? So the state government then went to SBI and negotiated with them and said, okay, the current market rate for financing EVs is actually much higher. It goes upward of 15% or something. For Amritsar, they signed an MOU with SBI to say that it will be somewhere around 10%. So they brought it down. So that is another innovation. So that's a huge amount of innovation that from a pure electrification subsidy program, it became a social transformation program. So that is the kind of innovation that is required, and that happens when you give this time of maturation plus mentorship. You will have cities innovate, but you also need to provide that handholding support, which I think the cities program is doing. And this is what we are also going to do in cities 2.0, which will focus on climate responsive urban development in the country. And we will again, we're expecting around investments of around 3,500 crores in cities 2.0 on similar lines. And again, there'll be a mentorship plus maturation model that will adopt. And we hope that this model can be replicated even by the states and the cities within their own programs as well, which will actually drive innovation. Because to drive innovation, you need that guiding, support, that okay, someone is telling me if I'm going wrong. So, you have an engineer, you have an architect, you have a planner, and they all are thinking in a certain way. But a mentor sometimes comes and gives you a much larger picture and asks the relevant questions. What about this? Are we really doing are we really going in the right direction? So that is something that we really need to also focus on.
No, absolutely. This is quite fascinating to know. And if there can be a framework like this which can help across cities, I think this framework is now currently being used in Amritsar. But has this been developed in a way now that it can easily be replicated across India? Because I think that is where the crux of the things lie to innovate in cities.
No, that's an excellent question, Puneet, and that's what we are working on right now. So we have developed a project development guidebook, which was launched by the Honorable Union Minister for Housing and Urban Affairs, which talked about. So we are not just giving the framework, we're also giving the templates in that guidebook. That what is a good DPR, what is a good feasibility report, what is a good environmental and social impact assessment report, what is the process to get environmental clearances from MOFCC, and what is the process to, let's say, get a coastal regulation zone clearance? Everything from start to end, how to develop a stakeholder engagement plan, and giving those templates. Now, then we realize this is at the project level. What about the neighborhood and the city level? So now we are working with another expert to actually develop an overall guidebook on how to create a livable city. So we start from the city level to bring it down to the neighborhood level, and then we come to now to the project level. And after the framework, we are actually giving them the templates in terms of how to actually do this. What should be the chapters? Going down to that level. Okay, what should be the chapters when you actually develop a DPR? And we work with multiple partners for this program for developing this toolkit. We had internal support from NIUA, as well as we worked with the French Development Agency, with this French company called Espelia. We worked with CEP University. We worked with this company called Efficacity in France. I think there are more than, I would say, 10 different global organizations that have helped us in developing this. So that guidebook is already out there. But I think that overall city and neighborhood and then project level framework, along with the guidebook and the templates, will be available, I think, in another few months. And we're also kind of converting it into a online course on project development through cities model, which will be available on the National Urban Learning Platform. So that again, we are planning to launch it by the second half of this year. And the next very important aspect of innovation is asset management that we need to focus on. That once you have designed, you have developed, you have implemented, we always see the upkeep is not good. I think all of us have again faced that, some really good public toilet was built with all the fanfare that, this is a really good model toilet, public toilet, but after a couple of years, there's no maintenance. Sometimes it's locked. Or even the smart toilets, we see some places, they did a fantastic work in actually installing them, but many of the places they are locked, or they are not, the upkeep is not happening. So how do you do asset management? So that is another module that we are working on, and we have recently signed up an agreement with a university, a civil engineering as well as infrastructure management university, and we are going to work with them to develop a module on operational maintenance and asset management of municipal infrastructure. So that kind of, we will close the loop. That how do you create a framework at the city level? How do you make a plan, a local area plan at the neighborhood level? How do you develop a project? What are the templates you use to develop that project? Then how do you manage that asset? And along with it, also a monitoring and evaluation plan. So how do you keep monitoring it? And at the end of the cycle, how do you evaluate it? And for that, we have actually developed the innovation matrix. It's a 3-level indicator in terms of how innovation should even be kind of monitored. So that innovation matrix also that the cities program has developed has been used as a best case practice by the French Development Agency for all the global programs. I mean, they recommended it for the other programs. There was a meeting that they was called with all the other staff, and they explained what NIUA has the cities program has done for developing this monitoring evaluation strategy. If you go on our website, NIUA's website, as well as the cities program website, you can actually download the project development toolkit as well as the monitoring and evaluation workbook. So it's a workbook. It has working sheets within that workbook. You can read, you can start filling in those details in the worksheet, and by the time you end the workbook, you have your project logical framework for your project ready. So we are developing this 360-degree model into I would say, if I can use, for the lack of a better word, a textbook of sorts for project development, and then also a video course module which any city manager or any official can learn from, and then replicate it. And if they have more questions, I think NIU's mandate is 4,000 plus urban local bodies. So we are always happy to support any city that would want to learn from this or replicate this.
Absolutely sounds amazing, the amount of work that has already gone in. But as much as I would like to be happy about it, I do see, and where do you foresee a lot of implementation challenges to bring this on ground? Because this is something we have created systems, we are creating now process. But I think all of us have gone through that phase of implementation will become somewhere the challenge to make sure that this has the best course of time as well. So where do you see those kind of things picking up?
I think Puneet will have to initially just look at those few islands of excellence and create those workable models, and then provide platforms for peer learning. Because if you and me tell say this to a municipal commissioner, the municipal commissioner might just feel like, yeah, obviously you guys are not in my seat, so you don't know what I go through. So you don't know what you're talking about. This is just expert or consultant talk, and not really hardcore something that is replicable in my city. So now we have shown in 12 cities that this is possible. Through Cities 2.0, we are going to work with another 18 cities. So we'll have like I would say a very good use case of 30 cities which has done this and delivered on it. And then we need to provide the platform for peer learning. So let's say Commissioner of Surat can actually talk to Commissioner of Amritsar and discuss how they worked, and they both can learn from each other. And similarly, we need to create those platforms, and that's what we are planning. We're also trying to do. We also have a peer learning kind of a program wherein we bring the city teams from each city, and then we invite other cities to learn from them and ask them questions. So we right now it's happening at a very micro scale, but we want to kind of expand it and make it much bigger. That's why we have also kind of collaborated with the World Economic Forum, and through World Economic Forum, through the city sprint processes, is exactly with what we want to do along with them, to bring in more partners, provide these platforms at local, regional, national, and international level, where cities can learn from each other. So that is, and I think once they see that my counterpart has done this thing, I think, and this is how they overcame the challenges, I think it will be much more easier, I think, the uptake. And apart from that, the implementation challenges, I think, will always rest on leadership. So we need to, that is again something we are building, we are helping. So like I said, the earlier one, the leadership and climate change management program is actually going to do that. It is going to try to build, the kind of, provide the tools and templates to overcome these challenges, to focused on the leadership.
That absolutely sounds amazing, and I hope we are able to succeed to this level as well. So, last question I'll come down to is, this is a huge project in itself. What are the different kinds of skill sets you are looking at to drive such kind of project? Because it's not just national level, but city level as well.
Now, again, that's a very interesting question, Puneet, because skill sets is something that we have focused a lot on. So when we launched the cities program, I think the first OM that went out of the ministry was on skills. And we said, if you want to start this project, you will only get the money once you have hired people with these skill sets. So we developed them and we sent out to all the cities. One was Environmental and Social Safeguards Officer. You need to make sure that all your compliances are there. Environmental safeguards are taken into account. Second was Public Engagement and Partnerships Officer. Technical wing you have. We know that. Every city has a technical wing. So we are not saying you get a civil engineer, get this, that. That technical wing you obviously have. Engineering wing you obviously have. But get a public engagement officer. And we saw that the role of this ENS and public engagement officer tremendously changed the outlook of the projects. Because when you have a full-time public engagement officer, obviously they have deliverables, right? And the commissioner is asking, "Yeah, isko bithaya, what is this person doing?" And suddenly they start going and engaging with the stakeholders. And through this, actually through cities program itself, we have reached out to at least 1 lakh people, and that is not just a survey or getting a form filled. These are detailed discussions with more than 1 lakh people that have happened to design the programs. Why? Because we had a dedicated public engagement officer whose job was to actually do this, and that completely transformed the programs. For example, I was talking to the CEO of Chennai, and he told me how when they started engaging with the students, they realized some of the schools didn't want a cricket ground or a football ground. They actually wanted, let's say, something like a volleyball court, which they never thought of, but they voted something like that. And most of the times, they were actually building sports infrastructure which catered only to boys. But when they started talking, the girls came in and said that, you know what, all the things that you do, it's always taken over by the boys. We don't get space to play. And then there was a constant, actually I would say very conscious realization that, hey, we are not doing the right thing. We completely missed this out. And then they started saying, okay, how do we make it more inclusive? That is very important, that you need these skill sets of a public engagement officer, of a social safeguards officer, of an environmental safeguards officer. And then we said we need overall urban management skills. I am of the opinion that we need more urban managers in this country. And we need to kind of build upon that. So a project in charge who is an urban manager, who knows how to manage things. And then obviously based on your program or based on your project, you require technical skills like a landscape architect or a conservation architect or other skill sets. That is project specific. But a project in charge with general management skills, about environmental safeguards officer, social safeguards officer, and a public engagement officer, this we said is required for everybody. And we said this is compulsory. You have to bring those people in. And now we have a dedicated project in charge, a dedicated environmental and social nodal officer, and a public engagement officer across all our 12 cities on a full-time basis. So that itself, I think, helped a lot. And because what happens is suddenly the commissioner or the other staff is saying, yeah, this person is sitting full-time and you're working on one project. Now do one thing. Why don't you engage with people on this project also? So they don't realize, but now they're doing public engagement for 5 different projects, which was not happening earlier. Or they're doing environmental screening for other projects also because this person is sitting there. So this is the kind of reforms that we have witnessed. And if I have to say this, these are the kind of skill sets that we need to really drive reforms. Apart from that, and one important also is somebody who understands monitoring and evaluation. That is again very, very important. So that person actually pushes to move towards outcomes and not just financial and physical progress. So these are I would say some of the key skill sets that are required within a city to really innovate. And then, I mean, the list is endless, but these are, I would say, some of the key focus.
Thank you so much for your time. This was absolutely good to talk to you and get your perspective on all these issues. Thank you so much.
You have been listening to the U20 Dialogue series. To know more, check out our website u20india.org. Do share the dialogues with your friends and colleagues. Don't forget to follow our social media handles for more information. Stay tuned for our next dialogue.